Okay.
Okay, my name is Aaron Metokula. I'm a prosecutor with Abuja Environmental Protection Board.
Sister, what has been the outcome of your rulings today?
Yes, like you know, the mobile court sitting here at the Old Parade Ground is just one of the mass trials ongoing out of the three that are concurrently sitting today. We have about 94 persons invited or summoned to appear before the mobile magistrate court for accumulated waste disposal bills that have been unpaid for years, and out of which about 9 deemed it fit to appear. Out of these 9, we have persons who are paid outrightly or have been discharged. Out of those number of persons, there are people who needed to do some reconciliation and report back to the court. We also have persons who have been given time, failure to which to pay, failure to which their premises will be sealed up pending the payment of the bill. So that's what we have so far.
So how many are
We have about 3 who are paid outright with discharge. At the moment you pay, we are no longer interested in proceeding with the prosecution.
So what's the punishment for those who didn't even appear?
Those who have failed to appear, we have been able to obtain a court order for about 80 something thereabout houses to be sealed up to compel the appearance of these persons. And because obviously in contempt, disregard and disrespect to the court, they were summoned to appear before this court but had not deemed it fit to appear. So the court had, in order to compel the appearance, ordered for the seal-up, which would perhaps compel them to come before this court voluntarily or forced to come, having failed to appear voluntarily.
Because what do they call it? People have complained that they don't even receive this, what do they call it? Bills.
The bills.
Yes. So how do you think they go about it?
No, you know, obviously people will not want to admit that they've received or not received bills, especially when the court is involved. They want to hide under the technicalities of saying they were not given bills. Can you imagine, probably in a block of flats, 1 or 2 would say they have not received from probably flats of 8 persons, whereas the others got their bills. Well, what would we explain probably happened there? And also, you know, the provisions of the APB Act also permits, in the absence of the persons involved, you can place in a conspicuous place to enable the persons, you know, assess their bill, to enable them pay as at when due before we get to this point of prosecution.
Is it only houses or business premises?
Okay, as it is right now, it's just that the mobile court sitting here under Pavilion B, for today, we only prosecuted residents of Garki 1, Shendam Close, Buari, and then the third one, Yenogwa. But tomorrow we're going to be prosecuting corporate bodies and also corporate entities. They have been summoned. Tomorrow we're also going to be here to prosecute this group of persons. Like I said earlier on, here we have another court sitting and another one sitting outside these premises. So all of these are mixed up. We have both residents and then corporate bodies appearing to pay their wages.
It's time allotted to, for instance, if it's sealed and all along nobody comes to pay, or the entire residence nobody comes to pay, what happens next?
No, it's at their own peril. If you are sealed up, obviously in law you are not meant to tamper with the order. If there's a seal up, it becomes criminal to tamper with an order of the court where there's a seal up. You see, that's where people want to take things for granted. They feel, okay, we didn't come, there's a seal up order, there's a chain, and there's also a sticker. Then people may decide to, and then feel nothing will happen. But I think people or residents of the FCT should be warned that an order of the court, if tampered with, will amount to contempt of court. It becomes criminal.
To what extent did you create awareness for this group to do the need? In terms of going on radio, television, to make those who collected their receipts?
Yes, the issue of awareness is not just a one-off thing. All these years, residents have been served bills every year. It's a consistent thing. You know, it's just a thing of the mind. Many people see the bill and will wait for court, you know, to come each year to be reminded to come and pay their bills.
Well, I would like to know if the judgment today can be appealed. Is it possible that those who judgment were passed in their case can appeal this?
Yes, of course, any judgment is appealable. As it is right now, the order of the court, which you may probably be seen as a judgment, is an order to compel the appearance of the residents who have refused, failed or neglected to appear when they should have honored the court's order to appear, or summons to appear before the court. So you may not call it judgment outrightly. It's an order saying, "Oh, yeah, come by force. Since you have failed, refused or neglected to appear, then I should bring you by force." And the order with which this is expected to be done is the order for seal up of their premises.
I mean, for those who came, because we noticed...
Those who came, yes, there's no outright judgment. Like I told you, there were people who paid and they were asked to go, they were discharged. And there were people who had not paid all, but we are given time to complete the rest. These are the categories of persons. No outright judgment yet. Yes.
I'm Director of Abuja Environmental Protection Board. My name is Engineer O.C. Brimer. I'm head of the agency.
So, Sir, share with us, how well are these people sensitized towards this payment of dues? Because some people already, most people are complaining that they don't even know it, they just see someone's.
No, of course they do know, because we give out bills, and when bills are dropped to your homes, usually you sign an acknowledgement slip. So the bills usually come in 4 copies. 1 copy to the owner, 1 copy to us, another copy to our legal department. So if you're not given a bill and if you do not sign for the bill, you will have court summons. So summons are based upon you're collecting that bill. So it's not entirely true. What happens occasionally is that people, security men collect these bills at times and they don't pass it to their principals. That's always a problem. But it's your responsibility also that if you know you are being given service, to ask. It's not a free service. We're always on air like this, on TV, radio, on the papers, trying to sensitize people to pay their waste management bills, because it's a very expensive service. We've tried to explain to people. It's not a tax or a levy. It is payment for services rendered. So if indeed you know that your house is being cleaned, so people are aware that they should pay, but they just at times refuse to pay and some other things. So we have to have recourse to mass trials like this. So mass trials are essentially a last option, but it's also expensive to do. It takes also quite a lot of steam out of us to coordinate this kind of mass trials. So it's a lot easier for residents of the FCT to go pay waste management services. As you can see, we live in a very clean city. You can attest to that. And this costs money. That's why we have recourse to this kind of mass trials ever so often.
How often do you carry these mass trials?
We try to do every quarter or so, we engage in these mass trials.
Okay, so does it cover even the suburbs, like Abuja,
Karu?
Our primary responsibility now is for our capital city. Satellite town, STD handles the satellite areas, so we're responsible for the FCC. So they know what they do there.
So what has been the response since you began this process?
It's usually very good. We don't have these mass trials. We usually have upsurge in payments. People are quick to respond. Nobody wants to come to court, because these are criminal courts, I'm told. So it's a serious thing if you're indicted. Like I told you earlier, this is the last option for us. It's when the default is continuous and deliberate that we have recourse to this. So we haven't got to this, but we do it all the time. We need to have our money paid for services rendered.
About 80-something residents ignore this court's invitation. Now, what's the next step now?
Our legal section will know what to do, because these are legal courts. It's outside the law. I'm sure they have a plan for them. But it's better that you respond to this kind of court summons.
So I'm sorry, there's this question of people who litter drainages. Sorry, it's out of what we're doing now. Just people who litter the drainages. Is there any what do you call it? Is there any penalty to do for those people who deliberately pour refuse into drainages, particularly during as affects rainy season?
That's storm drains you're referring to.
Yes.
You have to first catch the person. That's the problem now. So if the one is doing it secretly, you don't know who is doing it.
Okay.
That's why some of these environmental violations are so grievous because you don't find the defaulter. So even along expressways at times, coming from car road, you see people just carry their waste bins and dump on the road median. It cannot be everywhere, so we don't know who is doing this. So we have to remove. So again, it's part of what you should help us to do, you the media, to sensitize people not to do things like this, not to dump waste in drainages, because that's why you have flooding occasionally, because you now block the pathway for storm water. So you have to also help us to sensitize, maybe at your own cost.
Director, are you concerned that the number of defaulters are many, far more than those who are really responding to what you want to get at the end of the day? And if you identify some of the reasons, to what extent can you ensure that these problems are mitigated so that we don't continue to come to sit down here talking about judgment?
Defaulters, I don't think they are far more than those who are responding, but they're quite a sizable number. You see, this is where sensitization comes in. You know that you have to pay for services rendered. You have to pay your tax. You have to try not to destroy government infrastructure. For example, you can see around the city now you have issues of vandalization. People vandalize our manhole covers. People vandalize our solar lights. So you are putting solar lights. People are removing. So this is why you must be responsible as a citizen. And of course, this is why you have the police and you have the courts. So as long as you have defaulters and those who break the law, the courts will continue to function. So there will never be a day where you will not come here. You keep on coming, because there will always be defaulters, and we don't get tired. You must have to pay what you are owing to government, because this is a service that has been rendered to you. It's a very good service and very effective one. So you are expected to pay for it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, apart from the paid services the AEPB render, do they render social services? Do they work for the people without expecting their payments?
Yes. A lot of the areas we claim you don't charge for them. For example, if you're driving to the airport, for example, there's a long stretch, 40 kilometers or so of expressway. We clean it, who is paying? Nobody. So the open spaces, practically it's free service. The streets, for example, so you only pay for your waste that you're delivering. But they sweep the streets, they cut the grass, the medians, and then some areas too where happening former settlements. The village, Mabushi village and all that. There's nobody paying for those things. Those are social services they were paying. They were given, and nobody's paying for them because nobody lives along those places. In some cases, like the expressways. So if you're driving all the way from here to Zuba, Kubwa and all that, it's been cleaned, it's been maintained. So nobody's paying, because nobody lives there. So it's a free service.
If you have more programs for more sensitization for citizens to be aware that they need to pay for the waste.
We're always doing it, we're always inventing like this. Like people an interview now, this is part of the sensitization we're doing. So the continuous thing that we're doing, like I said, we're also using support. You can have things, a program for us on environment to let people know there's need to pay for this service. That is very expensive. So always on there, secretary try to explain to our residents to pay for this service. And again, it's highly subsidized. We've not changed our charges now in almost 10 years. It's a highly subsidized service. So the least anybody can do is to try to pay for the service.
Yeah, that brings me to the issue of budget and all of that. I know FCT gets its own budget and all of that, and I believe AEPB also has its own allocation. What does the AEPB do with money generated, and considering the fact that there is a budgetary allocation for AEPB and other government institutions?
The budget, you're referring to federal government budget?
I mean, FCT.
Yes, but it's to run the city, but it's not to give free service. So this also goes to the federal government account. This is where the budget is being funded from. So the budget is coming from somewhere. So it's coming from this revenue we're collecting. You understand? So the budget is a theoretical estimate of what you need to do, but you need to fund it. So there's a budget of, say, 1 billion for AEPB. It's not sitting somewhere. AEPB has to generate that 1 billion.
Okay.
You see the point? So the budget is not coming from heaven or somewhere like that. No, it's what we collect that we also spend. So usually there's a shortfall, like I said. It's a highly subsidized service, so you always run at a loss because you're not getting what we are spending. You understand? So for example, these rates were made about 10 years ago. At that time, diesel cost was 18 naira per litre. Same cost now of diesel is now 900 per litre, and it not increased. So if it's a business, it's a bad business. So eventually you run at a deficit, and then the program may now even collapse because you're no longer able to pay. So this is what free things can cause at times. Eventually it becomes unsustainable. So this is why we are having this program. We're trying to get people to pay for this service we are rendering. So there's no profits. That's what you mean at all. So it's even at a loss, great loss.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Betty.
That's embarrassing.
Okay. What's your designation at the AEPB?
I'm the head of legal.
All right. Now, the defaulters, what happened to them?
That they defaulted did not stop the prosecution. Order has been made. It's now left for us to ensure that the orders are enrolled. And as soon as the orders are enrolled, we will serve the orders on them, sealing up their premises. And once their premises are sealed, they are not permitted in any way to break in the locks, except they make their payment. And as soon as their payment is made, the authority can now open the locked premises. But whereby they decide on their own to break into the locks, we prosecute them, we commit them for contempt of proceeding, for contempt of court. Because that is contempt. Court has given an order, and that order was not made by APB, it was made by court.
Can these people defend themselves? Can they get their own?
Yes, they are free to get their lawyers. They are free to get their lawyers.
For some of the cases I witnessed today, there was no defense counsel.
Maybe they didn't want to spend money on lawyers, so they want to defend themselves.
But
the consequence.
don't you think AEPB should have gotten lawyers for them? People, no. Because in a court of law where you don't have the capacity to hire a lawyer, I think there should be, or there is always people who are rendering pro bono services.
That is not the work of APB, but the work of Legal Aid Council.
Okay. Legal
Aid Council is the one to provide lawyers for indigent, those that cannot provide lawyers for themselves. It's the work of Legal Aid and not the work of the Abuja Environmental.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
What's the name of that?
Betty Amarachi.
Designation?
Head of legal.